Okay, go ahead.
I would like to welcome everyone to the December 8th, 2023 meeting of the Niskayuna Complete Streets Committee. Our agenda packet lists the meeting date as the 12th. That's an error. It should say December 8th, and so that will be fixed. Just quickly on the roll call, Tess Healy has asked to be excused from the meeting today. Carla Duggal is here with us. I'm here, William Chapman, one of the co-chairs. Jim Levy, we have Jim Levy out in Zoom land. Hello, Jim. Andrew Millspaugh. Andrew is also here joining us on Zoom. Hello, Andrew. How are you today?
Hi, Bill. Good.
Catherine Kuzman is here. Hello, Catherine. How are you? And Ben O'Shea is joining us remotely. Hello, Ben. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Bill?
Okay. And we have James Leon, a student member of the Complete Streets Committee here with us today, and our town planner, Laura Robertson. Hello, Laura. How are you?
Hello.
And of course, we have always welcome to join us here today. Okay. Any speakers, anyone in the public or anyone who wishes to speak at privilege of the floor on any topic about complete streets?
I didn't get anybody.
Okay, let's move on to October 27 minutes. I took a look at them quickly. I don't have any adjustments at this point. Does anyone else on the committee have a amendment or a modification to the October 27 minutes? Okay. Seeing no one, I would like to move acceptance of the October 27 meetings, October 27, 2023 minutes of the Complete Streets Committee meeting on that day.
I wasn't there, but I'll.
Oh, well, why don't we get someone who was there? Anyone? Are you with us? Okay,
Yes.
Catherine Cousin, let's do that. So move in second and all in favor of the accepting our minutes? All in favor. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Carl, for being willing to jump in. Even okay, moving to old business, we have the draft comprehensive plan, which Catherine has been working on, and Carla has been working on, and myself. And we've had a brief meeting over at the library, or maybe not so brief, and another one here at Town Hall. And so I would just like to recognize Carla to speak a bit on, or Catherine, on how we're doing. Chapter 7 of it.
I don't have any significant updates to make since the last committee meeting that we had. We're still working on the first draft. I did a section on the mobility and also the introduction. Carla is working on the connectivity section.
Yes, and I am making progress on that.
And she's making progress, and Bill is working on the safety section. That's probably going to be the most in-depth section that we have. So he is also made some progress with it as well. Right.
I have some DOT data for you guys.
Oh, great.
I have to send it to you.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once we have a very rough draft together, I think we're going to send it to all the members of this group. So that's it. I'm sorry. What did you want to say?
Is that just cars, or is that pedestrians, or just cars?
So it shows pedestrian. So the cars are pedestrian, two different maps they made them.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah. I meant to send it to you guys and I forgot. You're just talking, but actually CRTC did it. Like you had me reach out to them.
Right.
And they responded just a couple of days ago and sent me some new stuff.
Okay. That's great. That's great. So we're still reaching out to different organizations, trying to get some information. It's not, it's a slow process, but that's all right. I don't know if you did anything you wanted to add, Carla, to.
I used to slow.
Right.
Next meeting.
Okay.
When we're.
Right. Yeah, that sounds great. So that's about it.
Same for me. I'm giving some thought to Catherine's suggestion about we were talking about auto movement, arterials and around town roads, and bicycles and pedestrians, how they move around the town. And then also trying to look at some kind of areas that we talked about, which are folks getting to school, folks getting to the business sections of our town, folks getting to town parks and types of bike paths, and folks being able to move from one neighborhood to the next. And just looking at, schools, it's like, well, where do we have some awkward issues of people being able to walk and get to school, and what are some thoughts we have about being able to do that? And then town, and I know that, we're talking about the linkage study for Route 7, and I did read in the 2013 master plan that they recommended, town take some steps to multi-use pathway on Troy Road, and Troy Road's got sidewalks on both sides, which is good for pedestrians. We need some more crosswalks, but it's not, much for bicycles. And so one of the questions, what Catherine has said, gee, we want to identify something we want to see happen in terms of some goals for moving, and then what are some obstacles in the way of that, and then what are some suggestions that we have. And I was just looking at the 2013 plan, and they recommended a multi-use pathway on Troy Road. And so, the question in my mind would be to ask folks on this committee if could we ask the state to allow us to designate the 5-foot sidewalks on Troy Road as a multi-use path, so that people who ride bikes on it now being able to ride bikes and walk? Or would we have to ask the state and try to work on money to widen the concrete sidewalk from 5 feet to 8 feet and then designate it a multi-use pathway? Or would we put 8 feet of asphalt over the 5-foot sidewalk and make it, bike and pedestrian friendly? And both of those are expensive, but bikes, people just say it's not safe to ride your bicycle on Troy Road, so that's not much of an option. So what is a suggestion? What's something we might do? And Andrew had his hand up. So Andrew, do you have a thought on that? Or?
Yeah, well, I'd have to pull it up, but there was an article in the Times Union a couple of years ago asking about this topic, and the response from DOT it was one of those Q&A parts of the paper, and the response was that the outside lane of Route 7 is actually oversized to accommodate bicycles. It's just not striped. So I presume this would come out in the linkage study as part of reviewing that, but if it truly is sized to accommodate it and it's just not striped, because in my opinion, if it's not striped, the cars are just going to take the lane and not give deference to anyone else. But I would think that would come out as part of the linkage study.
Let me ask also, but would people feel comfortable riding their bike in the far right lane on Troy Road, where the average speed is 55 miles an hour?
Not in the current condition. No.
They didn't see so, yeah, I think that's gonna be an issue, and it seems like it's gonna be an issue for any kind of bike lane that you put into that, unless it's the speed limit.
Unless it's separated, you have to have it
Yes.
almost totally separate. If they can do those things in New York City and Long Island,
Yeah.
we should be able to do something similar, but I don't know if it's necessary to have the entire Route 7 corridor, a bike, have a bike lane there. I think if we have connections going into various major streets,
Yeah.
I think if we have we look over our bike map and we have a way of getting from A to B, I don't think it's necessary to have the entire Route 7 as a, as a bike path going through it. I mean, that's one other option we have to look at.
Mhm.
Certainly the case. And when, for instance, we're looking at Balltown Road to go north and south, I mean, the comp plan committee, and I'm not going to revisit the whole thing, but really from Van Antwerp Road, where the sidewalk ends, I mean, they recommended really a sidewalk running along, say, along the reservoir. And then maybe when you get to Troy Road, jumping to the other side, running all the way down to get to the sidewalk that's above Mohawk Commons. And even north-south, if someone were at the Rexford Bridge and they, wanted to get down, say, as far as the intersection of Van Antwerp and Balltown Road, I mean, we do have, the hike and bike path that starts at the Rexford Bridge and wends its way around behind Craig Elementary and then down to River, where you'd cross at St. Joseph's, Orchard Park, down to Knott Street East, and maybe even a connection there. We had a piece on Van Antwerp, where you got to Balltown Road. And then, if you had a multi-use pathway that went along the reservoir and then jumped to the other side and went all the way down to Mohawk Commons, you would be able to go that north-south without asking the state to widen Balltown Road or put a bike lane or whatever. But as I look at, Troy Road, it's kind of it's a straight shot highway along there. It's got sidewalks on both sides and there are some of these here, but if you already had a side path, a bike path over here, it'd be tempting to just extend it there so you've got it going the whole way, but it is something to talk about. And I only offer it as an example of us trying to see an issue, which is biking on Troy Road not safe. What's the possible solution, that could be suggested. So,
I mean, if they educated the bikers, it's stopping at every street, and they're responsible for that. So, because it is hard to see both directions and then see a
Yeah.
biker coming as well, especially if you have cars in the way, like parked.
okay. Well, anyway, the report to the committee is the Complete Streets folks and the subcommittee. We also have pictures that Jim Levy has provided us so that have examples of, say, the sidewalk on Knott Street that ends at Baker and doesn't go over the hill, or the bike path that ends on Hillside Avenue and still has some things not filled in, and other examples of not good stuff that we want to fix. And then we have some photos of some of the good things that have happened in the town since the last plan, the turnaround at River and Rosendale Road, the traffic circle on the other side of the Rexford Bridge, improvements in front of the Niskuna Co-op, and some of the push button crosswalks we've got. So we do have things. And then obviously the Flower Hill connection down the bike path that we do have some things to point to, examples of things, that can be done. So we're working on it. Anyone else want to offer a comment? Any thoughts, Jim, that you have on chapter 7 of the comp plan, or
Nope, not at this time. I'm sorry, I had to step out for a second. I had a contractor here, but I'm back.
okay, doke. Well then, if that's okay, if no one else has another thought on the comp plan, and thank you, Laura, for digging up some data on crashes. As a matter of fact, could I ask is it 7 crashes now in the last 2 years on Troy Road? I mean, how hard would it?
It's 3 years and.
3 years,
Yeah,
but
I don't think so.
I thought we had 6
Fatalities?
before, and I thought we had one more. I mean, I thought the number
There were
was 7.
But neither of them. They were both in the town colony.
Okay.
And there were 2 right in a row.
Yeah.
That were bad, but they were not in the town of Muskegon.
How hard would it be to get a half a page, or even if we could get the data to write a half-page paragraph on each of the 5, or is it 5 or is it 6 in the last 3 years? I wish I knew the number, but so that we know what we're talking about when we say we've had these accidents and this is what they were. Even if it was what was in the newspapers, it would
Right.
be something.
It's not just fatalities that we're looking at. We're looking at serious injuries too. So what gets reported in the newspaper half the time is really the fatalities. So there's more crashes than, let's say, 6 or 7 crashes. So, you know, and there may not be serious injuries all the time as well with crashes. So we're really looking at the number of crashes, I think. And of course, you know, I mean, I know DOT and the feds always look at fatalities and serious injuries. So those things we have to report out. So are you wondering, like, in each instance, why that crash happened? And
Well,
is that what you're,
yeah, I mean, I guess it's for funding in the linkage. We may, safe streets and roads for all. We may want to try to get some money out of the feds to do this. And, even if there are fatalities, it almost seems it would strengthen our effort if it's like in the last 3 years, we've had these 6, and here's just kind of a general description of what they are. So someone would say, yes, the folks in this unit do have a right. They've had this series of crashes, but they've had 6 fatalities in the last 3 years, and here's what they look like. And so they do have
Well,
a serious problem.
I mean, I think that nobody's questioning that there's a problem with fatalities on Route 7. And like, I think that when I've been meeting with DOT, we've been bringing the chief of police who has them all memorized. So I don't think that in any way, shape, or form, it sounds like we don't know what we're talking about. And all of the data that's coming out from us is vetted by them, the police. This is what I just sent you guys. I apologize for not putting it in the packet, but it shows you where the fatalities are, and it shows you the serious injury crashes, and it shows you injury, possible injury, and property damage, and it does list why the causes are there. So you do have that. That being said, I don't know that at this stage we need any more than this. Like, I don't even think that we need to write it into a paragraph anymore. I think that we're working really hard on a couple things that are in this, you know, grant, and we have the momentum. We have the DOT behind us. I don't know if you're able to read their letter in the packet. They wrote that all themselves. The DOT is not only supporting us with their words, they're also offering to pay 75% of the local match.
Yeah.
So that's
That's a good thing. I guess I'm just saying, we did have the 2 ladies that live over in Carl's neighborhood that, you know, they just read the newspaper accounts, they knew something, and yeah.
get that much more. The state like never does that. Like, it's huge. Like, we're there. Like, we've gotten no support, and I think it's because of you guys, and we've been doing all the meetings, and we have the data now to put into the comprehensive plan, and now we're working on these grants, and we're pushing them as hard as we can. I don't think that that like more detail is really needed at this point. We have a lot more support than I was even expecting.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. The state never does that. It's the Marchicelli funding, and they always don't do that.
Well, I'm glad I'm on the tape, as at least asking, and as chair of Complete Streets, other people are like, Bill, tell me, what were the accidents? What were they? And I'm kind of like, well, I know there were serious accidents, but after that, I mean, I don't have much to say, so.
Well, so, I mean, you can look,
Yeah.
some of the accidents were impairment. Some of them were, you know, driver inability. There's a little chart in there. Some of them fall into multiple things. So driver, you know, inexperience plus being impaired can show up in multiple categories. But what, like, I heard the chief of police say, and I think it's really something to keep in mind, is that these fatal accidents, the impairment and things that are causing, you know, the underlying causes that they put in that chart, they're not originating in the town of Niskayuna. They're driving Route 7 on either side of Route 7, impaired and inexperienced.
Yeah.
But the fatal crashes are happening in Niskayuna, except for these last 2. But so there's something about our road that is causing it. Like, that condition isn't originating in Niskayuna, but when it gets here, then you're having these really bad accidents. So they're still impaired and inexperienced in Schenectady, but they're not crashing and dying. You're crashing and dying here. And I think he gets worried that when you focus so much on the underlying cause, then it can almost be dismissed because you can see, okay, 3 of these were drunk drivers.
I
Well,
agree.
then
There's
do we
nothing we
really
can
need to
do.
fix Route 7? Yes, you do. So like, I don't know that you want to focus so much on those individual details that there's ways to then like dismiss those.
Okay. All right, let's move on to, oh, the linkage study for Route 7. So good. That's a good lead in to linkage study for Route 7. So would you like to speak on that for a minute?
Sure. What I was
And I'd like to start by saying thank you to all of the work that you did in getting a grant application done and submitted.
Oh, well, yeah, I want to thank both co-chairman Chapman and co-chairman Ben O'Shea. They both dropped what they were doing to sign their letter for me at the very last hour. So thank you for that. This is the application that was submitted. We worked on it for quite a while. Had a submittal meeting with CRTC, so we're hoping that it will get funded. I just put it in here so you guys could see what we were submitting. I cleared this with the co-chairs, but not the entire committee. It's an in-kind match. And so we are committing hours from the Complete Streets Committee. Not everyone has to work on it. I put 5 of our 9 members. So if somebody's can't do it or just overextended, we don't need everyone. But we do need a fair amount of hours from you guys if we were able to get this award. You guys would essentially be the clearinghouse for all the data, the helpers, or if we're doing public outreach meetings on Route 7 and things like that. I don't think it's out of character of anything Complete Streets does, and a lot of it can be folded into our regular meetings. But I noticed, and if you guys are interested, I can send you other linkage studies that are similar to this one, that in those linkage studies, the town always has its own committee that, helps with the linkage study. And so then rather than like making a new one, I just put our Complete Streets Committee on there.
Now, would you be looking at members of the Complete Streets Committee to make some suggestions on what kind of concrete steps or would be done on Route 7? I mean,
Okay, so let me just go through that quickly. When we submit the linkage study, the CRTC, there's a contractor, manages the contract. They will do if you look through existing conditions assessments, they can do a couple quick meetings with us to see what we've done so far, what we've heard, what we know, what data we can share with them. But they design the workshops. They will frame the public outreach. They just need human helpers that live in the community to read what they're doing, make sure it's accurate, and help spread the news.
Okay.
But no, we're not going to be coming up with the treatments. Like we're hiring the grants for $150,000. That's what we requested. They're hiring professional planners and engineers to come up with like DOT acceptable treatment for the corridor that could then be funded.
Andrew presented a couple of things that have been done on Troy Road already. I mean, if we have seen things in Troy or in Cohoes or some other community that, or even just on the internet of treatments that can be used on busy roads to reduce traffic speed or to make it or traffic calming measures. I mean, we could certainly provide those to the engineers, could we not, to say these have been used in other communities and.
They probably don't need it. I mean, CRTC is going to give them like an outline of it, and that's what they do for their business, like professionally. I mean, if they submit a bunch of treatments to us and we notice they don't have one, then in the course of our review, we could be like, okay, yeah, we like that one. It seems like you didn't include this one that we've seen in Troy. Is there a reason? It'd be something like that.
So that could be cost, right? In other words, if you have a bunch of money, you could do this, but I don't know if DOT has thoughts about what they'd be willing to spend. And, I did have the example that was in the news clip that, here are some things without spending a lot of money that you can do to maybe help reduce traffic. And, if you were willing to spend more money, you could do more things with maybe concrete medians or other things that would slow the traffic. So we don't have an unlimited budget, right? I guess so.
So I think that CRTC, when they do these linkage studies, it's really important to have as robust as possible public input. So like we can give them all the data in their initial meetings with Complete Streets and Highways and whoever they're bringing to the table, the initial stakeholders is great. But one of the things that's really important from the linkage study is to go out to the corridor and really get that. They do charrettes and stuff and get those public input and use that to build some of the concepts that they're doing as well. So, I mean, this isn't like Complete Streets running the show. It's CRTC running the show, Complete Streets helping, and then trying to get as much public input as possible. And then one thing I wanted to note to you guys, I know the packet came out kind of late, is the study is proposed to go from the intersection of St. David's to the Colony line. We're not able to include the Balltown Road and Route 7 intersection because that is its own linkage study. There's not enough funding to do both. So we're really looking, and there's also not a whole lot of real serious accidents that happen over there. So we're really looking at a corridor treatment, not the Balltown Road Route 7 interchange. That is going to be its own little baby someday. We are going to look at St. David's all the way to Colony. And the idea is, because this is a very long linkage study, super big, would be that if there's treatments that work, you could apply them to a large part of the street without having to do, an individual study for like between, Douglas and Laurie. And then places that are really unique can get a deeper dive. And the idea would be to make Complete Streets treatments from Colony all the way to like St. David's.
I like the example you included in the linkage study, the photos of the sculptures on Creighton.
Oh yeah, I did send that to you guys.
Like
I
something-
like that
Yeah,
too.
I mean, maybe on a smaller scale, but something like that. would be
Yeah.
Interesting, just.
And those would be like
little
gateway
pocket
treatments,
areas.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be different theoretically, right? When you drive from Colony into Niskayuna, you would have a gateway. It would put you on notice, slow down. You're going from commercial to residential. You're going to have trees. You're going to have people's homes. You're going to have something that like comes over the road and tells you like, now you're in a neighborhood. Yeah. I really like, there's another one that I want to send you guys to over in Troy. It's a really good linkage study that has a lot of similar issues as to this one.
Benefits of the linkage study are not only to help us get funding or the New York State to spend some state DOT money eventually to do some of the things that the study comes up with, but also, will this be done in time for us to still, or maybe the state to apply for some of the federal money, the Safe Streets and Roads for All money, so that there's a big pot of money that's there now, who knows, I mean, will it last long enough for us to apply to that pot of money to be able to do some of the things that are recommended in the linkage study?
Well, no one at this table has a crystal ball, but it seems as though Safe Streets for All has been coming out every year. So with the assumption that it comes out every year, there's a couple things that have to fall into place before, the town can really go for construction funding. One is the planning study from CRT that was funded under Safe Streets for All has to be completed. That allows the municipalities within the district to then be eligible for the construction funding. And yes, you are way more eligible for construction funding if you completed a plan like a linkage study. That would definitely make the federal dollars more accessible. This study is being funded with federal dollars. It's a federal highway program. So yeah, it certainly does help, but whether or not Safe Routes for All still exists in 2 years, I mean, probably.
So,
Well, the TAP program too is the one that they mentioned before. This really is a good project for TAP funds.
Yes,
So that's usually runs every 2 years, but it may be maybe every 3 years now. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how they're doing it, but that's another funding.
access to federal money that's in the pipeline to do.
It's a grant.
yeah, TAP is federal
dollars.
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just part of the regular federal program that comes to the states, but like, yeah, to Catherine's point, federal monies are out there. There's a lot of them. They're very competitive and very specific. If you can do a linkage study that gets the state on board with things that happen, the state won't just put ideas into its construction plan every year. But if you have a linkage study that's completed, that's been reviewed, that's been vetted, then they know that the public outreach has been done. Then they know that their engineers have reviewed it. Then they know that the planning committee at the, the CRTC has seen it. It's much more likely to get rolled into their, even just their operating funds at that point. So yeah, I mean, we certainly, don't have the grant. I submitted it only like weeks ago. But if we do get it, there's only good things that can come from it.
How long does it take to find out?
Yeah, I think they put it on for potential action in like February, maybe. It's not as long as some things. Yeah, actually she sent me, it's not like terribly long.
Funded, would it be done in a year or is it longer than that?
Right, for them to be done in a year, but I was looking at all the ones that they had on there and it seems to take about 2 years. Yeah. I'm really excited about it though.
I think it's great.
Really, I mean, I've never seen such help from like DOT and from the county and from CRT before. Like, we've really got a lot of people who are rooting for us.
Anyone else with a comment on the linkage study? Ben?
Laura, thank you so much for doing this. It's exceptional.
Well, thanks for taking the time out of your day to come support me. I appreciated that very much. You guys are all committed to it, and thank you for letting me commit you as well.
We've
Oh, that's
all bought in, whether we signed up or not. Mr. O'Shea and I have both committed your time, so we're in. But
Supervisor committed, like mine and Clark's, and even though I didn't even put it in, she's also committing some of the police too.
So when you had that outreach meeting for the comprehensive plan, the one that took place not too long ago, were there many members of the public that attended? And I wonder if if Route 7 came up at all.
It did come up.
Okay.
There was, I think, there's about 20 people.
Mhm.
And yep, we had a map like this for people to put like their thoughts on things and problem areas. And Route 7 came up a couple times as a problem area for people.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a summary of those comments, which I can copy to you guys. It comes up in a lot of places that I go. I'm sure it comes up in a lot of different places. Even when I'm talking to town staff about what I'm doing, people who work here, some of them live right off of Route 7. I get a whole montage of opinions and what happened to them and why they won't drive on that road, or why they'll actually like even do a triangle since they only go right on that road. Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge part of people's lives who live in Niskayuna.
yeah, as a committee, we are capturing some of that, just residents that are, well, there might be more. I mean, if we walked Pierce Road or we talked to these and we just ask people, what do you do to live with? And obviously even Catherine, how do you live with Route 7 being able to get around with the speed of cars and
Well, and that's the point of the linkage study. So hopefully we get awarded. I just checked my email. The award actually comes in March. So we'll know that.
Does Mr. Rice have a copy of our map, the state DOT that you know?
So Bill, like, let's just let some things unfold right now.
Okay. I'll revisit later, but there, Mr. Rice. Any further on the linkage study? Any thought you have, James, or as you're listening in?
I'm interested in given that the road is overbuilt and that there's space for a bike path or like a bike lane of that sort, is that something that given that like the completion committee is like helping us and see that, is that something that we're going to bring up in meetings, or like if this linkage study goes through?
So that kind of thing to think about is called a road diet, and it's very data driven. And we are not the experts on it, but if we are able to get the linkage study, they will look
So
and they'll see if there's ways to do a road diet to Route 7, and if there's room to fit lanes or change the way they work and add a bike path.
So it seems like the committee's role is supposed to just be like public outreach and like workshops, as opposed to like offering like design input on the linkage. So
Well,
I think if we really wanted accommodation for bikes to be able to use the pathway Route 7 is, either up on the sidewalk or a path there, that is something I think the community could say.
so
right?
listen, I think we can say these are all of our ideas for Route 7. But I'm telling you, a state road is data driven. It does not matter how many times we say we want a road diet and a bike path. If there's too many cars on that road, it doesn't matter. It's not our road. And we don't want to do takings out there anymore. The neighborhoods have had enough. So like they'll look at the data. We can say to them, we'd love to see a bike path. And then they will look at the data and look at the numbers and look at the size of the road and say, yeah, it works. Here's a concept for it. Should we roll it out to the public? Or no, that's not an appropriate treatment for this corridor. Here's something else that will work. But we can't just say design a bike path for us, because that's not the way it works on state roads. Go ahead, Ben.
I think it's a interesting. I see what you mean with the thought of a bike path, but if you maybe think about the way the town flows from east to west, maybe it would be through this linkage study, if we get it and they do the road diet analysis, maybe we see that it would be a better fit for a bike route to go down along the river, like go down the Rosendale Road and then go that way to bypass this whole area where we have all these problems. I mean, that seems.
And that, yeah, and if that comes out in the linkage study, it's just one more thing we can show the county to get our bike path on Rosendale Road too.
Very true.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I mean, I hate dropping back to simpler solutions, but if the state says, hey, if your town board wants to designate the sidewalk a multi-use path and allow bicyclists to use it the same as pedestrians, we can live with that. If it's just too dangerous, not enough space or too dangerous for bicyclists to be on the road, then, you've got the curb, you may even have some fencing. We're okay if the bicyclists ride on the sidewalk along with the pedestrians and,
Which they do now. but
Which
yeah.
they do now.
which they do now.
Yeah,
So it's safer and it's a lot less expensive.
I
It's
mean, we
just,
don't really have huge biking community. It's probably because of the infrastructure.
Yes, I
I mean,
agree.
if we have safer infrastructure, I think people will be more apt to use it for that. Oh, do they have a bike group at the high school? Does it have like an active?
Yeah, but it mostly goes to other places. Like it doesn't do biking in this unit.
Oh, okay.
That exact reason, the infrastructure.
Okay, I was curious about that. All right.
Well, maybe also to see other communities though.
okay. Well, good ideas. Anyone else want to offer a thought on the linkage study or Route 7 before we move on?
Just two quick comments, Bill. The sidewalk as it stands now just isn't wide enough to really turn into a multi-use path. You can't, it's 5 feet wide. And believe it or not, there are some pretty good issues out there if we were to look at widening. It wouldn't just be a simple laying down of additional width of sidewalk. The other thing I wanted to say is that it is not illegal to ride on a sidewalk in New York State unless a municipality has made it so. So people can do that legally, but many municipalities have banned riding on sidewalks, particularly more urban places.
Actually, I thought it was the reverse. I thought riding your bicycle on the sidewalk was banned unless the municipality said this is a multi-use pathway and that gives you the green light to do it. But if you're right, I'd like to see that, because to me, that says it's okay for you to ride on your bike now, and that the people on Route 7 that are doing it, there's not that many pedestrians on the sidewalks and not that many bicyclists. But if they've got a safe place, they should ride on the sidewalk to move up and down Troy Road. And it's like it's a big highway, east-west, that goes through town. It's got a concrete sidewalk. And, I would, if I were
It's
a bicycle,
It's common folklore, I guess I'd say, that you can't ride on the sidewalk legally, but I did pull up the DOT website while we are talking, and DOT's bike ped page does specifically say riding on a bike on a sidewalk is not prohibited by New York State statutes, but municipalities have passed ordinances.
Or at least send it to me,
What's that?
email attachment.
Send you the link? I can do that.
Each to me or the Complete Streets Committee, just so we can see it.
Yeah, it's on the DOT's Biking in New York FAQ page. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out
You
there.
can find the page, that'd be great.
Yep.
That'd be great. So that's news to me, and I'm happy to hear it. At least it's a short-term solution, maybe a permanent solution, so. Good.
So let's move on to ShopRite. Well, more to come on that. And then for ShopRite, I think Co-Chairman Chapman had an idea that we're getting a new tenant and Metroplex is trying to help us with our town center overlay district. Could we get crosswalks? And I noticed from an older plan in the ShopRite Plaza, soon to be Market 32 Plaza, hopefully, or something, that there's a section of sidewalk that was never built, which I think probably because it maybe needs stairs. So we put this map together. It also has refreshing the landscaping because that's something the tree council's been working on in that plaza for quite some time. Is we'd really love to see these crosswalks painted.
So we put it up on,
Oh, I thought I did. My computer is being very strange.
so one of the ones that Jim Levy mentioned, not to jump too far ahead, is that the high school students walk from the high school and they walk down the corner at Crescent and the exit from ShopRite Plaza. And there's a dirt path that you might even be able to see it. That's, right here where they walk up and then, they walk up to the chicken place or the mall up here, or to get to the mall over here. In the old days when they had a Starbucks, they would lounge on the couch and smooch occasionally. I don't know, people would find that shocking. But they did. So there is and actually I think there was a back gate where you could actually get through the gate to come from the high school right over to the plaza, and maybe the merchants there don't want to do it. But you'd almost need a crosswalk right on the entrance road there that goes back, and then a concrete sidewalk that would go down to the sidewalk on Balltown Road, right there. And then I certainly agree on the painted crosswalks there next to the bike path over on Knott Street East. Are those the town's responsibility, since they're next to the bike path, that we need to paint those crosswalks there?
I mean, you and I have talked about it. It's in the town right away. I try to get the town to paint them sometimes, but the developer can also paint them.
Okay.
I mean, really, with the exception of like us, anybody can paint them. I mean, the town could paint them, the developer could paint them,
Yes.
I
And then
mean,
actually is a third thing that Ben mentioned at the last meeting, which also, across from the post office, I mean, not only do cars swoop by when you're at the exit to get out onto Knott Street there, I mean, that crosswalk should be painted. It's not, and you can be a pedestrian walking there, and it's like lots of places where you can walk, but you don't have the additional protection of a crosswalk. Not that you necessarily want to ignore cars, but it would be nice if it were there. But where do people in Van Entrup Apartments, or people from the post office, or if we got a crosswalk coming over back road at the Van Entrup Apartments, should we have a crosswalk on Knott Street there, Knott Street East somewhere, that goes from kind of the post office over to Market 32 Plaza, and where there's a hill there. So, if the town supervisor sent a text to the planner and Complete Streets Committee, where is the best spot to put a crosswalk on that road for people to get from one side of the street to the other?
So go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say what I was Thank you, Bill, for bringing that up, because I noticed that on this map. If you look to the right of the post office, there's a short little sort of half sideway path cut, or a sidewalk cut through there. That's the spot I was talking about. Yeah, right there, I see you with your mouse. That's where I think there's a bus stop there. I think there is a sidewalk, but there's a sign that I think may be obstructed by trees. Like it's not very visible, but I think that's the spot where they come out at the fence there from the apartment complex.
Yeah, I saw that too. We could move where we have the crosswalk, or we could draw another one in here. I don't know
I
the
would
sight
say
line.
additional. I would say another one. I mean, because it's pretty far to walk all the way down the hill to get to a crosswalk, but that one is definitely needed, and I think that is that one already there? The one down the road.
No, it's not.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think both are necessary.
I mean,
Yeah,
I've
Ben,
observed,
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to add that, yeah, there is the striped crosswalk where you were talking at the just right of the post office, and there's not striped where Laura circled, further down, but there's signs at both locations.
That's
So
why I was in here, because I think originally this was designed to be a crosswalk, but it never got built. But you're saying there is striping right here?
yeah, there is. So I would agree that we should have both of them. I mean, I think there should be. This is a highly, active area for crossing back and forth. And the only thing I would add is if there's any potential to make the signing more consistent with what's over by the co-op. Right now there's like one old yellow sign. There's a newer green sign. Neither of them are like, push button ones. But if there's any opportunity, especially if the developer will do it, I would say I would recommend it.
well, Metroplex might help. In other words, Metroplex often is, we got a new tenant coming in, and we want to do some things to kind of pave the way for them to come in, and not, I mean, if they're fit up costs or other things that they have to face in the building, a lot of times Metroplex will help with that. And this might be something, well, it's a shopping plaza, that's a business Metroplex is in. We want to do some things as kind of welcoming a new tenant here. But it's good that you mentioned the co-op, because I know there's a push button crosswalk, which some use right across from Lang's Pharmacy in the co-op block. But there are still people that walk down to the end of Clifton Park Road, and across the street, there's a lip where the bus stops, so people don't have to walk through the mud to get from the sidewalk to get on the bus. But people still come to the end of Clifton Park, and they don't go down and use the crosswalk. They cross there. They're just used to, I'm not going to go 10 more yards down and push the button. And I'm almost wondering if it's where you put them at the Market 32 Plaza or whatever. Should the crosswalks kind of, I mean, you go out and sit in a chair and look where people are crossing, and you put the crosswalk where the people are crossing the road now, so that it will be used. And rather than, having it moved down, you might put a crosswalk down in that spot, across from Van Antwerp Apartments, and there's a sidewalk stub there. But if most of the people come out of the post office and they cross right at the entrance ramp going into ShopRite, then does it make sense to put it there, which it's kind of at the top of the hill. So motorists, coming up would see, here are people crossing, and I don't know, would people walk down from the post office and use this crosswalk to go over to ShopRite, or would they just risk their lives and cross at the top of the hill and go in that way? And I see it at the co-op. I mean, the chief of police wants people to go down to the crosswalk, but I sometimes wish they'd put the crosswalk right on Clifton Park Road, right across from that street, put it at the end right there, instead of putting it there at Lang's, because the students and everybody else, they cross the road where they want to cross the road instead of using the crosswalk, which it's like a shame, but that's what it is. So,
So this is the existing one. And then, I think you can see in these plans, because they have these stubs out to them. oops. I was drawing, it has this concrete stub out already. Oh, I gotta go a little farther, sorry. Right here, see?
Mhm.
And then this sidewalk is actually all the way built to here, but I think because this was never built.
Right.
But I found plans that showed that it was supposed to go, like, that's why this is like that, because there's supposed to be something here.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you look at, just in terms of thinking about the two locations for the crossing, as I was looking at Google like you were, Laura, if you look closely, you can see that the entire apartment is fenced. And those two locations do have gates. It looked like one was open, the other one was shut in the Google image. I'm guessing they're not locked, but those would be the two places to connect over to the apartment, obviously, since it does have a fence running along the perimeter.
So
Well,
then the
and
only
there's
other
also-
thing
Yeah.
is, where does the new apartment people cross, like to Bill's point? Where are they crossing? Like, are they probably crossing right at the entrance with no crosswalk too? I don't know.
Well, it's good that there's a sidewalk stub from the sidewalk over to the gate at the Van Antwerp Apartments. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have a crosswalk going over to the store. I mean, once the people come out of Van Antwerp Apartments, they could walk a little bit east or west to get to a push button crosswalk if there were one somewhere. And I mean, I'm just thinking, you know, if you wanted to put either one, or like the co-op, maybe two, you know, push button crosswalks, you know, where would you put them? And I mean, it's possible we don't have to know today, or, you know, as a committee, we all sort of said we were gonna walk and look at it and think about, you know, the town planner or the town supervisor or Ray Gillen called us up and said, hey, you folks live there, you walk there. Where should we put the crosswalks so they will be used and they get people from one side of the road to the other? And
So the only, just because I like to just put all the points on the table though, the only thing is, like, sometimes you can't just put a crosswalk where you want it, because like, it depends on who owns the road and such things, but like, if the sight lines are really bad and stuff, even if people are choosing to cross there, like, you're going to need to put the sidewalk. So the best case scenario, like, I am very uncomfortable just drawing a crosswalk across the road, because like, I don't know if that's a safe place to put a crosswalk. The reason that I am comfortable drawing it on here is because I found it on a plan. And I believe that it was engineered at the same time that the other one it was. And the only reason it didn't get put in is because somebody didn't want to pay to put the sidewalk steps in. But in my thoughts, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that when an engineer puts them down across the road, they've at least looked and said, yep, that's, you know, the sight lanes are relatively okay, and you know, it's far enough away from another crosswalk. And because there's certain things that you want to like double check, and you don't want to have like too many of them in a row, because then cars are, you know, whatever. There's a lot of different things that, you know, you have to look at when you're adding them. So I mean, it does matter where people want to cross, like, it definitely does, but it won't always be the place that you can put the sidewalk.
well, I mean, if the supervisor walked down the hall, came in and said, hey, folks, I'm gonna talk to Ray Gillen this afternoon, and you know, where would if he's willing to do it? I mean, is that a county road, or that's a town road,
It's
isn't
a
it?
town road.
It's a town road, so, you know, if Ray Smith and Matt Dietto were sitting here and we want to get a crosswalk there, and we want to do something to welcome Market 32 here,
Yeah, that's actually why we made it, is that
where would we put that crosswalk?
we're trying to use this map, and send it to Metroplex.
Maybe looking for a
So-
recommendation from us? I mean, in our collected wisdom right here, I mean,
It just makes sense if the engineering has already been done for this particular spot, like you said, and the line of vision is better at that location. Just from I don't know, it just makes more sense to put it where they originally had intended to put it. I mean, that would be my way of looking at it. The engineering part is important. They've done it already. that would be a better. Listen, when I worked at DOT in Wolfboro, there was crosswalks, different locations, people were crossing all over the place. And these are DOT people. So you're never gonna get everyone to agree and to use a crosswalk where they're supposed to. But if you are gonna have one, you wanna put it in a place that does have good sight lines.
What about the first three options there? You got one post office right directly across from the entrance as a possibility, especially if we paint a crosswalk there. So you've got a crosswalk across from the entrance. I mean, conceivably, you could go down just a little bit and put the crosswalk right from that sidewalk that is across from the post office. So someone walks across the street, there's a sidewalk that goes down to the sidewalk that leads you down to the store. To me, that seems like a logical possibility. I mean, then there's the one further down that comes out at the, the corner. There's a gate there where you come out of the Van Antwerp Apartments, you go, might even be a ramp or maybe even some stairs there you come up. Would the people at the post office walk down and use that crosswalk, especially if you walk on the crosswalk, then you're over the parking lot and you get to the road. You either have to walk in the road or walk over a hill to get, to the parking lot. I mean, I don't know.
What Laura said is right. And I think it was I think it was Kathy speaking as well. I bet that the reason they put the crosswalk at the corner of the apartments is because the traffic volume drops off significantly when you get to that last post office driveway. And the traffic into the ShopRite Plaza is really significant at that entrance. I mean, that's the main entrance in and out. A lot of turning movements going on between there and the post office across the street. And so, you've got a curve, you've got, it's not signed for high speeds, but you've got some higher speed volumes. And I would just guess the way it was engineered was quite intentional or somewhat intentional to connect to the apartments and stay away from those higher volumes and all those turning movements. That'd be my guess.
Something else I also noticed about
Yeah,
that
which one are you recommending then?
Honestly, probably just keep it where it is.
Yeah, I agree. That intersection is really busy. Trying to pull out of the post office, take a left turn, and then.
No, so you're suggesting the one all the way down at the end of the Van Antwerp Apartments where the yellow mark is there?
Oh, no, I was going to suggest the two that are already there, just keeping them and restriping them and then deal with whatever we need to deal with the
Well,
getting
there's
that
only,
sidewalk extension.
there's only this one, but this one was engineered and just never painted.
Well, we're striped at the other one though, right at the edge of the post office property. That striping exists today. And there is that sidewalk segment that goes in. No,
I was
anyway.
just thinking that, sorry, Bill, the one thing I was thinking about if we put a new sidewalk directly across from the main entrance of the post office, right in the middle of that section, is that then anyone who crosses the street there then has to navigate people turning in and out of the post office. And it's just like by waiting the extra 16 or 20 feet or whatever it is to get to that next crosswalk that's already there, then like Jim said, like the volume is a lot lower. And one of the things, like I drive that stretch a lot to take my kids to Blatnick for baseball, and people aren't speeding as nearly as much as they are getting in and out of ShopRite. Like it does drop off, and I feel like the speeds stay pretty reasonable because they know town hall and the police department are right down the hill. At least that's what I do.
So the second one that's directly across from the post office, you wouldn't even be an advocate for that one, right? I mean, even though it's got the sidewalk across from it.
I think, yeah, correct. The one where it's like you see it go all the way through where there is a sidewalk that navigates the entire parking lot. I don't think we should put a parking lot where Laura is moving the mouse now. That is, I said parking lot, sidewalk, but where she has the mouse, where we do have an existing one, like Jim said, I agree. That's a restripe and then put the new one in that was originally engineered. I don't think anything closer to Balltown would work just because of the traffic volume, and it would be dangerous. Another thing that I was thinking is that by adding more pedestrian access, this is going to make it more appealing for people to actually walk to the store, and it will increase business. Like just like with the co-op, like having it be something where you're not using a broken metal rail to climb the stairs that were from some business from however long ago. It's all neat, it's clean, like it's a finished product. Like that's what we're talking about, is like a finished product here in the town. And it's really exciting to be able to be this close to do this, like right in the center of town. So I think this is great, important work. And thank you again for doing this.
I'm only reflecting Ben's comment that we should look at a crosswalk there, and also just with I mean, we've talked about the crosswalks on the ShopRite Plaza property, because as you're walking along the bike path, the cars are coming and going, and there really should be crosswalks there because people are zipping in and out, and there are people, it's a busy bike path, there are people walking along there, so we need to really indicate who's got the protected access to use the roadway there when people are coming out. And
Well, can we agree that there maybe in the future can explore other crosswalks, but for the time being, like, this is a
Sure.
good ask and it would
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
improve it? Yeah.
and my thought was Metroplex, they might be a candidate. I mean, they could always say, oh, that the town should do that, but if we want to make an ask of Metroplex saying, look, there's a new client coming in, it may be Market 32 or someone else, but the one walkway that gets you where the students use it as a walk path, that should be a concrete sidewalk, and that the snow removal guys get the snow off so they're not walking through the mud. That would be something to be done. And then, the crosswalks there, and, if Metroplex hires somebody to do that, and we've got a spot on that street where they get a crew out there to do it, to ask them to paint a crosswalk there, it would be, maybe Metroplex would pay the cost and we could just get it done in one swoop.
Okay. I just have to leave in like maybe 10 minutes, and I've got 2 of the planning maps
Sure.
that I want to show you guys. So, I know you've seen this one before. This is the 2890 River Road. And this doesn't, I don't think, affect you too much. They changed it from 4 lots to 3 lots. In the past, when you guys have looked at this, you asked, I believe, for a multi-use path easement along River Road and a more formal public access for this walking path down here. The Conservation Advisory Council was looking at it at the last meeting, and they were trying to get the developer to actually, this is a walking path right now. It's probably only like 3 feet wide. They were trying to see if, like, without taking down too many trees, if you could actually make that a multi-use path, which would make it more accessible. So I didn't know, I don't think changing it from 4 lots to 3 lots really changes too much for you guys, but if you wanted to like renew your recommendations or add anything or change anything.
I mean, I don't know if that's a walk path that's on Seneca Road that gets us over to River Road Park, but
Yeah, it's this blue thing right there.
yeah, as I look at, we have the town working on Mohawk River. It's a state park now, but Seneca comes out, if there was a stretch right there, there was an entranceway to get to the park here, that's here. And, we get a side path on Rosendale Road, so that you get over to River Road Park. If there's a way that you don't have to go on River Road, that you can take this little stub that would get you from River Road Park to Seneca, and you come down here, and there's a short connection way right here that would get you to the park. Then you get into the Mohawk River State Park and to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Path, and you could do that from Rosendale Road. And it's kind of hard to look at how you would do that now, but if we just had that little connection right there, and then we ultimately have a little bit of a connection right here, once you're across River Road right here on Seneca, then you get down here and you have access to the park.
Mhm.
So I think having that walkway, if that orange thing there is the connecting that takes you from Seneca Road over to River Road Park,
It is.
we would like to see that included in the plan.
Yeah. Okay, so I will say in continuing those recommendations and then maybe also look at the connection to Mohawk River State Park across River Road.
Yeah, I mean, we want to hijack a developer, but is there any way to get the developer to do a little on the other side, or that's
At least we can put it in our recommendation.
yes.
That's a good addition.
What is that line? Do you know?
Well, that's just the other side of River Road. There might even be a borrow pit there or something like that. But once you get down here, I mean, we did have some things where we looked at the park that are trails. There may be a trail, even though it's just a walk trail right now, but even that is something that
There's
you,
a, because I know someone who's in that neighborhood. I think they take their bike from Seneca Road right off of it and they go and they bike up there.
okay, good. So
um,
again, the power lines, we want to reach out to power line people to at least ask, can we just use the earth trail that's there underneath the power line, to get access to the park? So you don't have to spend money. You just use what's already there. But this at least gets you a safe access way. And if you got a bike with knobby tires, you might be able to use it to get to the Mohawk Hudson bike path.
To get this easement and they are willing to upgrade that trail a little bit, we're making just by this subdivision a pretty critical connection that's already on our trail, so that's nice. All right, and then the next one is 1430 Balltown Road. This is the old building that was like an attorney's office, and this building over here on the right side of the drawing is WRGB. And over here on the left side of the drawing would be Ace Hardware. And then behind this parking lot is the KinderCare. So this was the old like 1-story law office building. The attorney company, I guess, dissolved and left.
So would you point the buildings out just one more time?
Okay, yeah. On the right, so if this is Balltown Road down here. On the right of this building's WRGB. Then behind it is the KinderCare, and over here to the left is the Ace Hardware. So this is like, you may not even realize it's vacant, but the law offices, they left like a couple months ago.
So it's that building on the right in this picture right here? That's the law offices, or it's, oh, that building right, oh, yeah.
TV's to the right, Ace Hardware's to the left, and we're looking at the old law office building right here. They are proposing, the Niskayuna Central School District's proposing to move their headquarters to this building. And so they're adding some additions, and it's kind of like, okay, well, we have a complete streets look then at the parcel real fast. They have proposing to add sidewalk from the parking lot to the building. They're proposing to add, there's not any right now, but they're proposing to add the sidewalk here and here. Dart, who used to be on the Complete Streets Committee, said, we'd really like to see sidewalk from Balltown Road to the building. I agree. But I think it would be really great if it came as a recommendation from the Complete Streets Committee. And then if you guys see anything else, let me know.
I agree with that. Sorry, go ahead, Andrew. You raised your hand. I'm just jumping in. I'm being rude.
No,
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, down at the entrance, just the basic thing of painting the striping of side crosswalk across the entrance, and then the thresholds there, the ramps to the existing sidewalk on each side along Balltown are, at least from the street view, they look like they're in pretty poor condition. Those could probably get brought up to current standards. Then just as you said, Laura, doing some type of connection either to that sidewalk across the driveway that's existing, or a new sidewalk on the building side of the driveway down to Balltown. And then probably something, because there's that back road to get to Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
There should probably be some type of crossing across the driveway, because of I could see people walking from the north, not on Balltown, but coming through where Ace Hardware is. That's all I have.
Okay, so I got crosswalk stripes along Balltown where the sidewalk goes. The connection sidewalk to Balltown, and then looking at pedestrian markings or something at this intersection up here. What were you saying were faded though? I didn't get that.
Oh, I was just saying the existing sidewalk along Balltown, it has you know, where it tapers down from the, you know, the 6 inches of the height of the sidewalk, you know, whatever you call them, the ADA ramps or the, Jim probably knows what I'm talking about. But they're, I don't know, look on the street view, they just look like they're just in rough shape.
The
Okay.
sidewalk cuts are actually pavement. They're not concrete. So it's not actually a sidewalk. It looks like they probably filled it in the past. And Andrew, you just raised a really good thought that I had that actually relates back potentially to ShopRite Plaza as well. And that is that there are no ADA detectable strips on the sidewalk here on either side. Those little orange pads you see that have the bumps on them. We should be promoting those, and really they're required that every single sidewalk crossing of a road. Now this is a driveway, so it may not fall under that, but this one is significant enough, I think, along Balltown that should be considered. So if we're gonna, improve the sidewalk, they should put that ADA detectable strip in there because it is people walking along a busy road. The only 2 items I had is I'd love to see a bike rack here. It is the school district admin building. I don't know if they're planning on having meetings here or not, but it would be a good thing anyway to encourage people to ride. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then from a complete streets perspective, I would love to see this property and CBS 6 plant trees along the road. It's the one gap along this part of Balltown Road that has no street trees, and it is a big opening. If we put some street trees in there, and there are trees that you can put in that are consistent with the fact that there are utility lines there, it would start to close in the road from that visibility perspective and start to calm that view a little bit. So I would love to see a couple street trees put in, and with developers coming in asking for an addition, now would be the time to do that. And then, try and work on seeing if we can do that on the CBS 6 property as well, but that's a different discussion for another day.
Yeah, okay. I think those are great comments.
I have one thought, and it gets back to something we had before, that if we look at the getting from the Rexford Bridge on your bicycle, you get down to the side path on Knott Street East. If you had a bike path that went from Van Antwerp Road along the reservoir and got you all the way down to, say, Route 7, you cross there, and then over on the right side, you either had a sidewalk or a side path that took you all the way down to what used to be, I guess it's, what's the name of the house that was there? All the way down to Troy Road or State Street, basically. But when I look at the homes that, the 4 homes that are next to CVS there, I know I'd asked before about if you went behind WRGB, if you had a bike path that came along in front of CVS, and then if there were new condos or some new construction in the back of CVS, and we went so that we had a bike path that went the back way that took you over to Knott Street behind these properties. So if you're on a bike, you ride your bike along the bike path, there's a way to cross and get over to this road that's behind Ace Hardware, runs along the post office, Ace Hardware, down behind WRGB, then the new apartments or new construction, whatever it is, behind CVS. Then you'd hook to a hike and bike path on Van Antwerp Road that would get you down where you'd be at the corner of Van Antwerp and Balltown, and then you try to hook onto a side path that would take you south. And I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know if we were going to ask WRGB. I mean, we talked about, if the,
WRGB is an applicant here.
I know, but I guess I'm just, thinking ahead that if we ever wanted would we ever want a bike path that would go, say, to the back of CVS, all the way behind these buildings right here that gets you over to Knott Street East? I mean, maybe there isn't anything connected to this, but it's, without being able to use the back road of Van Antwerp Apartments to get from Van Antwerp Road over to Knott Street East, is it possible this roadway that runs behind WRGB and these places right here would be, in other words, they're tearing those homes down, so it makes me believe the developer eventually is going to do something with the property behind
Yeah,
CVS.
so I'm
And so- Yes. Okay, that was the word I guess I was. Sorry, I'm so clumsy. I'm what Abe Lincoln would call a poor preacher. It's not concise.
the rear property.
I mean, it could be the schools not necessarily connected to this, but it's just a thought.
Well, yeah, the school is also just the leasing, they're not the underlying landowner, but yeah, that's a good idea. We could ask for public access using the rear property. Any other thoughts on this? Okay,
I
then
think
before
we could get that stuff done, it'd be great. I was gonna say, if we get that stuff done, I think it'd be great. It is kind of a hole along Balltown there in terms of visibility, and getting that building reused would be fantastic. So,
yes, I
um,
have. Sidewalk to Balltown, look at pedestrian movement through Ace Hardware Kinder Care School. Look at condition of sidewalk, ADA ramps and detectable warnings in front of building. Bike rack, need street trees along the road to Com Road and ask for a public access easement at the rear property.
well, my only other thought is the driveway is pretty wide. I mean, certainly farther up there, it's very wide. I think it was intended to be more of a road than a driveway, and it's a driveway now. You might be able to, depending on where we see the future of this going, just put the sidewalk over the existing paved area instead of taking up more unpaved area. But that would be something for the engineers to discuss. It might not be worth kind of arguing over, but it's a very wide piece of pavement when you get up the hill a little bit there. To be honest, that whole right turn slip lane should probably be removed. Shouldn't be encouraging cars to speed around up in there, but that's,
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. We're
It's
not,
not-
we're not talking about it as much, but actually the engineer, our engineer wants to remove this kind of funny little slip lane.
right, the right
and
slip lane,
keep that
exactly.
in space and take that out and just make it a normal like four-way intersection.
That would be fantastic because there's no need for that. It just encourages high speeds and there's no reason for it. It's not functioning that way. I don't think it ever probably will. So if you could take some of that existing macadam, put the sidewalk there, it's a little less impact and a little easier maybe to do. But anyway, thank you.
Okay. The last thing I attached to your packet was the new proposed meeting time. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, I do. Really, Jim and Ben had problems with a possible Monday and so we were looking for another date that wasn't Friday because Laura has a lot of work that piles up on Fridays for planning board on Monday, big packets. And then, there's also childcare, so you don't get a chance to spill over as much. And Mondays and Tuesdays are a little bit easier days for her. So we wanted to move back a half an hour so Avi Barr and James and Percy can join her. And Ben also, it gives folks involved in the schools another half an hour to try to make the meeting. And, if we started at 3 and went to 4:30, and then we'll try to do it the last Tuesday of the month, I guess is what was proposed. And so it would be a question to Jim and Ben, would that work with your schedule if it was 3 p.m. last Tuesday of the month?
Generally speaking, that's fine with me.
I wouldn't be able to be there until 3:30 at the earliest on Tuesdays. But I don't let that stop you though.
What about Thursday? Wait, did we say Thursdays can't be done?
It's the same Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for me. I'm contractually obligated to be there until 3:15, and it's minimum 15 minutes to get down. I don't want to stop you guys from starting the meetings at that point. I thought we were okay with third Monday.
Well, time.
I thought the third Monday was what we had talked about. This was the first time I saw these dates.
But Jim's got something on the third Monday, don't you, Jim? First and third Mondays or not?
Or second Monday.
First and third Mondays, I'm out.
Yeah, second
Well, what if
Monday
we-
is fine for me too.
Okay. Actually, we talked about the second Monday, I think. So would the second Monday work for you, Ben O'Shea?
Yeah, he said yes.
Would the second Monday work for you, Jim?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I think the second Monday seems fine, generally speaking. Yep.
Okay. Second Monday, I mean, I'm happy to start at 3:30, but I think, is that a problem for people? Is that too?
I can do 3 o'clock if it's Monday.
Okay,
but- yeah.
so second Monday, 3 p.m. How about the rest of the folks?
For me.
Yes. Okay, well then,
Is that good for you, Andrew?
I'm sorry, everyone. I thought we had worked this out, Bill.
no,
You forgot.
yeah, I was trying to think of what Monday it was. I didn't think it was last Tuesday. I thought we had actually settled on the second Monday, and so, but we have, so that'll work.
That's good. Keep it-
Andrew, does the second Monday work for you? Can you make that?
Oh,
good.
let's
Okay.
do that then. Okay,
Okay, second Monday of the month at 3 p.m.
okay, so I will redo the calendar and send it out for you guys to look at.
Cool. Hey, are you planning on doing the second Monday in January actually is like, oh, Jim, how would that affect you if we like that first one right after New Year's? Does that impact anyone? You know what I mean? You have that,
the eighth?
the 8th, I'm sorry. I just didn't know if because of the holiday, it impacted anybody's availability. That's all.
Oh.
Is school open on the 8th?
I'm sure.
I just meant the holiday on the 1st. That's all.
Yeah.
While he's looking at letters to the owners, can you say anything about Winnie Road? And then I can do the rest of them.
Finish that yet, but
Okay.
we did talked about it with the Elena and our Economic Development Committee meeting, and everybody's on board with me doing that.
Okay, good. I have the Pump Street sidewalk listed. I just hope people will drive by and look at it. It's in and, you know, it's a good thing. And, so we talk about working on stuff and hoping it eventually turns up as part of the infrastructure, but it has. The concrete's there, sidewalks there, and neighbors are pretty happy about it. And now people are talking about, well, street that runs by Hillside, it goes to the bottom of the sidewalk. I should know the answer to that. It's Nicholas Avenue. I mean, so there's still, we're working on a sidewalk on Cornelius. We've applied for grant money to do that. But there are some folks that just say, look, you know, there's also kids that come up from Troy Place or Van Antwerp. They walk along Ray and then they walk along Nicholas up to school. So, you know, even if we had a crosswalk there that gets you from Nicholas across Plum to the school, or, I mean, it's another, you know, eventually a sidewalk on Nicholas might be something. I mean, once we get one down on Cornelius. So, you know, one sidewalk promotes discussion about other things. But anyway, I see this as a step. And again, also our thanks to the town board for finding the money and Laura to keep pushing it to get that sidewalk done. The Complete Streets demonstration project, we'll have some more meetings in January and February, kind of thinking about the loop we talked about for kind of a bike loop that we could do some training on the crosswalk at River and St. Joseph's and the crosswalk at Knott Street East to get over River. And so you'd ride along on the bike path, come back, go on St. Joseph's and River, use that crosswalk to come back down to Orchard Park. And, you know, we'd have an event here at Town Hall. Laura mentioned the Winnie Road easement letters to the owners. We're working on that. Priority letters. I have spoken with Rory Fluman, and he's very open to having a meeting with Niskuna Complete Streets. So if there are things that we have in mind that we'd like to see happen on county roads, if Rory says, well, you know, let's meet with Laura and, you know, 2 or 3 members of Niskuna Complete Streets, even just to go over some of the goals we have or some things we'd like to see happen on county roads. The first pitch for Rosendale Road or other things. I think it's good just to talk with the county manager and, you know, we'll share a copy of our map and just see, these are some things that we thought about for county roads in Niskuna, and at least introduce them so they can start thinking about them. I did send everybody a copy of our 2023 goals, and Laura said they've been very helpful with the linkage study and with other grant things. And, you know, if you've got she's got usually a package of our priority letter, she's got the goals, she's got a complete streets map and an active committee that's doing some things so that, you know, we have stuff on paper that kind of shows we're alive, we're doing things, and they're good. And I think it's helpful with the state if, you know, you show the priority letters and it says, oh, their communications with the school and the county and the town, they're stressing Troy Road safety and wanting to do something about it. But other things, you know, like the school, they're coming along with another set of bonding things. And if we, I mean, they look at the town as saying, gee, you know, the town has got this sidewalk on Plum Street. They've applied for state money to get a sidewalk on Birchwood Lane, another one on Cornelius. They've leaned on the county to get some crosswalks to do some things. So they'd say, gee, the town's moving their feet to ask other people to do some stuff. We're not the only ones. And so the school doing some work on their own campuses where they have mud paths or the bikes come in, you know, that it's helpful to them. So I just look at the 2023 and, you know, maybe things we've already gotten done, we can strike those, but other things that we may want to add. So I'd like to start 2024 with a fresh set of 2024 goals. And so people look at them and, you know, we can modify those. I also have the push button on St. Joseph's, just asking people to, you know, to go try it. You know, motorists still have to be educated that, you know, when somebody pushes the button, that you should stop. And I did ask the police chief, it still happens even in front of the co-op, that you can walk in front of Lang's and, you know, push the button. You're standing in the crosswalk and the blinkers are blinking away and cars can still be zipping by, even though they're standing in the crosswalk. And so what I'd like to do is maybe, you know, ask the chief to do kind of you know, an education day where, you know, maybe he does an enforcement day of the crosswalks in front of the co-op. And, you know, maybe the first time or the first 2 days, we advise motorists that, you know, we got these crosswalks. It's not optional. You got to stop. It's state law. If the blinker is blinking, you got to stop. And then after that, you know, they write some tickets, because I know we all occasionally use those crosswalks and people are driving through. It's like, hey, somebody should be writing these. And so we write some tickets. It helps with public education to say, hey, we're not fooling. You know, we encourage people to push the button and see the blinker come on before you walk across the road. And we expect motorists to stop. And so it's not just, if you think about it, or you're on time for work, then stop. Or there's an older adult with a bag of groceries, then you stop. It's like, no, it could be a school kid. It could be anybody that, you know, and we advise pedestrians to make eye contact with motorists going both ways before they walk across the crosswalk. But, you know, we'd like to see some people stop. And finally, if you want one, I mean, Mark Storty has, you know, updated what was the Safe Routes to Schools map. It's the complete streets map, and we had some new streets, you know, that have come online that we have here. And so I have extra maps if somebody wants a new one to put against their wall so they can mark on it or sleep next to it and have complete streets concepts filter into their minds as we're sleeping. I'm happy to give you one. But also, I think now that we kind of have it, the computer software underneath it, I'd like to, you know, get this map updated, but I'd also like to think about kind of two maps. One is just the existing paths that are on there now, so that if we put that on our website or the town put it out there, if you're biking through from Buffalo to Albany or just wherever, and you want to know how to get around Niskayuna, it would be one map that this is what is there now. So, you know, you can trust your bike to get going. And this map is a mix also of recommendations that we have. And so we'd almost need another map that's got, you know, we have our Excel spreadsheet with all the different things that we want to see happen in the town. And we can reflect them on this map as recommendations that Complete Streets has to, you know, our bike pedestrian path for the town that, you know, we want the planning board to look at, and as they see development happening like, you know, the development of the Kelts property, which I think was a big win for us by asking the developer to, you know, move the crosswalk down, put it across from Blatnick Park. And he paid to put it in and paid to put the push button in. Didn't cost us anything, but we now have the bike path lined up so people can go down Knott Street East and get access to the park. But we have, you know, lots of other things on here that are, you know, connections and, you know, I also think recommended Orange, a lot of them are recommended, you know, pathways that people can get around town. And so I guess the one, as long as you can ride your bike down the street and get somewhere, that should be the one that we put out. So if you can access it on your phone or your home computer, and you can move around the town that way. And then we'd have a second one or another layer that lays down, you know, the connections that we want to do. And so, I mean, I'm not a CAD specialist or whatever. Laura says it's not that hard to do some of the things, but I guess some part of what we're doing would be to, you know, look at our Excel spreadsheet on recommendations and look at this map to think about, you know, what are things we want to add to this map that are recommendations that the Complete Streets Committee has for really refining our movement map for getting around Niskuna by bike or on a bicycle and putting them on. And so that's just another thought I had. So anybody that would be interested in thinking about working on that would be welcome. So anyway, anything else that we were coming up on 2 minutes after 4? So anybody have any other comments on
Well, you
on the
know,
map or?
regarding the future bike improvements, any paths, any new paths, maybe once we have more of these outreach meetings for the comprehensive plan, I'm sure some of the citizens may have something they want to add to this. So we should take note and have at least one person go to those meetings from the Complete Streets group. So if they do make a recommendation for a new bike path somewhere or.
Those are idea generators. We certainly
Right.
don't have to add it to the map
No,
necessarily,
not this map.
but they
just
could
for-
make it. I mean, we're getting
or
input
proposed,
from
right.
the survey and from citizens and stuff, and you know, would be kind of refined from the committee, and then we would say, yeah, that's a good idea. We want to put this on our map so that the planning board or other boards that are looking at how you get around Niskuna would say, yeah, we show a connection here. It's been on this map, and we'd like action on it if the town board's willing to do something. And that's something as even as simple as what I say is just winter work. If it's a matter of trim and brush and cleaning things, it could even be something that the highway department could do, and then to maybe do something later on. So anyway, but if anyone wants a new map, let me know, and I'll give you one. I have them right on the spot, so I'll drop them off to the houses of anyone out there in Zoom land, and I'll give them away to anybody sitting in the room with me now. So anyway, anything else? Seeing none, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting for today, if there's one out there. And to adjourn by Carla Duggal, a second. Catherine Guzman, all in favor? We adjourn for the day. Well, thank you all for reading over the materials, and hope you have a great holiday, Christmas and New Year's, and see you back in the new year. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Ben. There she comes.
We're done. You came at the right time.
Oh, I left the calendar up. That's fine.
Oh, so that calendar's gonna change, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah. So we are the second Monday at 3. That's